The legends of Memphis wrestling return to Jackson Saturday, September 21st at the Picture Perfect Event Center. It will be a night to remember, featuring the stars you watched every Saturday morning on TV. Be there for the Fan Fest meet and greet at 3:30 and the official Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony at 7 p.m. featuring Jerry the King Lawler, Superstar Bill Dundee, the Boogie Woogie Man, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Wildfire Tommy Rich, the Rock and Roll Express, PG-13, Downtown Bruno, the Birdman Coco Beware, Dr. Tom Pritchard, the Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, Nightmare Danny Davis, Terry Golden, Sir Mo, the Spellbinder, Tony Falk, Carl Fergie, Jerry Calhoun, Michael St. John, and more. Plus a special reunion of the stars from TV5 Power Pro Wrestling and KAW. The legends of Memphis wrestling return to Jackson Saturday, September 21st at the Picture Perfect Event Center. Sponsored by Budweiser, Pro Shingle, Thomas Media, Slide and Ride Rodeo, and WBBJ TV. Tickets are on sale now. Go to Eventbrite and search Official Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Everybody, welcome back once again to the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and as always, it's my pleasure to welcome back our beloved co-hosts, Josh Briley and Richard Mulligan of P3 Radio. Guys, how are you doing?
Awesome, man. How about you?
Doing well, man. I'm doing really well, and man, we've been getting such great feedback on the podcast here lately, and we're getting new people listening and new people watching, and they're messaging me and they're liking the page. We're up to over like 5,200 people following the Facebook page now, and
good God,
it was like really well.
Almost. It was under 4,000 last show we recorded. Correct?
Yeah.
That's insane. Awesome, though.
I got some weird fan mail of underwear, a knife, and Vicks Vapor Rub. Is that weird?
Josh, have you run into any of that, or is that specific to Richard there?
I mean, it could sound like a good time, but no fan mail for me.
But I mean, I'm just saying, people are excited about the show, and people show it in different ways. So, hey, the Facebook page is looking great, by the way. Like everybody being on there, and people are starting to chat amongst themselves. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's what's cool. And we've started a USWA Universe group, and there's people joining it every day and sharing stuff and telling about what their favorite people from USWA. And so, if you haven't yet, please join in, follow along, tell us, what's some of your favorite memories from the USWA. Tell us, what you've seen here on the show that you remember, or if you're seeing it for the first time, like a lot of you are. A lot of people have messaged me and go, hey, I'm not old farts like you guys are. I'm just now seeing this stuff. And, that to me is fun, hearing people, we have this distant memory of it, and this is all kind of waking that up, and we're kind of reliving it, but we have an initial memory of it. But these folks that are seeing it for the first time, and, maybe they didn't start seeing Jeff Jarrett until he was in, TNA as the world champion or something like that. And now they're going back and seeing, Golden Boy Jeff Jarrett, Fabulous One Jeff Jarrett, Real American Jeff Jarrett,
Shitty GDP Jeff Jarrett,
dog petting, rocket ship launching,
terrible basketball coach,
awful basketball coach Jeff Jarrett. That's a lot of fun. So I'm glad that we can provide that service to people. And last week's show, it was a fun show. We didn't have any WWF people in the studio there, but we had some good stuff go on. And before we move on, I always do research for these shows. Not only do I watch the episode that we're going to be reviewing, I go back and review some of the Wrestling Observers and Torch newsletters and things like that to see if there was any news that gets past us or explanations for some things. And so in looking at the Wrestling Observer newsletter from around this time, I learned that Bert Prentice is now gone from the USWA at this point, and Mike Samples will be the primary heel manager moving forward right now. No word on what led to this. I don't remember this instance specifically, but I do remember from reading Bert's book that Bert said most every time he left Memphis, it was generally money related. So I have to think that this is probably no different. And it also, in the Observer, it says it seems officially official that after no showing last Monday night's card, that Eddie Gilbert has quit the promotion. But for me, it seems that somebody was still holding out hope, because I don't know if you guys noticed it, but when Corey ran down where they were going to be for the spot shows, Eddie Gilbert's name was mentioned on a few different shows. So I guess they were holding out hope that maybe Eddie was just mad and that he would, pop back up. But no, that's not the case. I mean, we know he's not going to stay gone forever. But for right now, we're saying it's Eddie Gilbert. Any thoughts on any of that news before we get going?
Poor Rock and Roll Phantom. He's just there by himself with a guitar that's broken now and nobody to fight with.
It still plays, though. I mean, think about it. But yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying, though, because I guess maybe he'll show up in Hey Ty. You know what I mean? After he cools down. And, but this is 1993, Eddie Gilbert. He's probably went back to ECW or somewhere up there to make more money. And, he knew he'd be back anyways.
Oh, yeah. And that was the thing with a lot of these guys. Eddie Gilbert, over the years, Dutch Mantell, Buddy Landell, Tommy Rich, a lot of these guys, they'd come into Memphis and they'd do some time there, and then either something would come up they didn't like, they'd have a falling out, or just get an opportunity, and they would go somewhere else and they'd go do some other things. But they knew in the back of their mind, if things get sideways somewhere else, all they'd ever have to do is pick up the phone. They could be back on the card next Monday night in Memphis. And they always found their way back. And to me, it kind of was cool because, some guys probably needed to go away for a while and then come back to freshen things up. You can't have the same bunch of guys on the show every week. So as much as I hated to see Eddie Gilbert go away, it'll be fine. He'll be back. We'll see him later in the year, and we'll see how things look when he comes back compared to how they looked when he left. So,
but what tripped me out about all of that was you would see, just like not on TV at all, but just in random spot shows, King Cobra, Dutch Mantell, and neither of them had been on Memphis TV in like 2-3 years. But
yeah,
it's like normal to see them at a spot show somewhere.
It's very true. Yeah, King Cobra was a subject just pop up just any time, on these shows. You just see his name. He named 6 shows in a row, and then all of a sudden, just King Cobra will be there, like you said. It's just like,
and okay. I did notice, like Big Black Dog essentially was just gone. That's what we thought watching TV, and then a month from now he's going to be in Hey Ty, Missouri. Like, just okay, like cool, I guess, but. Whatever.
Do y'all remember Big Black Dog? Brian, come on out here and tell us. I won't do that clip again. But so Dave and Corey let us know that the opening match on today's show is going to be Jeff Jarrett defending the Southern Heavyweight title against Scotty Flamingo. And the Unified World title is going to be defended here on television, guys, against Brian Christopher. Plus, we'll see the Harlem Knights, the Moondogs, PG-13 are all going to be in action. So, sounds like a pretty big day today. And, we were pretty psyched last week about that big tag team match we got at the end of the show with Scotty and Brian Christopher against Uncle Danny and Jeff Jarrett. So here we're going to see Jeff and Scotty going at it again. But before we get to the Southern Heavyweight title match, of course, we got to hear from Jeff Jarrett, who has a huge match coming up this week. And I know they say that a lot, but he really did have a huge match. So let's listen to a little bit of what Jeff Jarrett had to say here.
Kind of holding the announcement here. You got out of here. I know this is something that you have been working on for months, so why don't you share it with everyone, okay?
Not just me. I had been working on it. The whole promotion has. Dave, some 7 months ago, back in August, I went down to the Pyramid. The WWF came to town and had their matches scheduled. I got me a ticket. And I took my wrestling bag down there, and I actually got up into the ring, and I issued a challenge to Bret Hart, who at the time was the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. Now he's the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. But at the time, he was the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. And I issued him a challenge, and I was hoping maybe to get to wrestling that night. But to my surprise a little bit, he accepted my challenge and said that he would face me for the title. He would give me a title shot. But now 7 months have gone by, and I hadn't seen the title shot yet. Now, Dave, we have had some WWF guys come in here, and we've had some joint promotions in here, WWF guys wrestling USWA guys. And matter of fact, I believe it was Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, and Randy Savage. They came in and they challenged Jerry for the World Heavyweight title. And up to this point, it looks like we've had everything to lose and really nothing to gain.
Well, that's true. They've been trying to take the belts from here.
Exactly. But Monday night, it's going to be a little different. History could be in the making, and I sure hope so. Because right now, since that time Bret Hart lost the title, now the new champion is Shawn Michaels. He is the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion for the WWF. And he's coming into Memphis, Tennessee. And the match is signed, and Monday night, yeah, Shawn Michaels, he's cocky and he's arrogant, and he thinks he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, Shawn Michaels, you're coming into my backyard, and I cannot wait, Dave. It's going to be a big night.
And the WWF Intercontinental title will be on the line right here, Memphis, Tennessee, at the Mid-South Coliseum Monday, and you're going to get the shot at it.
Well, guys, what do you think about that? The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is coming to Memphis to defend his Intercontinental title against Jeff Jarrett.
That's awesome, man. I mean, because looking back, Shawn Michaels was in to what I would be considered his prime back then. I mean, like, he could do so much. He was so athletic. And Jeff, like, you know, same thing. Jeff was in his athletic prime back in these days. So, like, you've got, you know, essentially two of the best wrestlers of each promotion going to go head to head. That's like it's a dream match.
Yeah. I remember being excited about it because I was like still a kid, and this was fresh off of the, you know, Marty Jannetty going through the glass, and I remember laughing at the Sherry theme music, like, is this what he's doing now? Huh. You know, but I remember thinking, like, this is cool because I don't know why I was just so drawn to Shawn Michaels, even when he had that horrible match with Rick Martel at WrestleMania. Was it our SummerSlam, where he was fighting over Sherry?
Oh yeah.
Even that, I was just mesmerized by Shawn Michaels. Like, you know, even as a kid, not knowing what heels and faces were and how they turned, I was like, I really want to like this guy. So the fact that he was coming to Memphis was just awesome. Like, I remember thinking, this is really cool.
So let's take a look at something here, because I don't know that we've addressed this here, because it actually took place at the end of '91, and Jarrett referenced it here. So from a kayfabe perspective, and us as fans in this time period, you know, we didn't know in October of '92 that the WWF is starting to work with the USWA. So on the surface, the way this played out, Jeff Jarrett is sitting in his seat. He's bought a ticket. He's at the Pyramid at a WWF house show. And this ticket buying customer now jumps the rail, gets in the ring, issues a challenge to Bret the Hitman Hart for the Intercontinental title, in which Bret Hart responds, yes, eventually I'm going to defend the title against you. And this is the payoff to that now. Months later, Bret is no longer champion. He actually was no longer champion just a few weeks after that happened in Memphis. And now Shawn Michaels is actually coming to town to make good on this. And again, like I say, from a fan's perspective, they think that's what's happened. To me, it's funny to think as of the local wrestlers, like, what would have kept a Whitey Jenkins from coming to the next USWA show and jumping up with his ticket in hand? Hey, Jerry Lawler, I'll challenge you for that unified world title. You put it on the line. And, you know, I mean, I can't believe there weren't some mark indie wrestlers, or at the time they'd have been called outlaw wrestlers, who didn't decide, like, holy shit, man, that worked for Double J. That can work for me. I'm going to go down to the local show and challenge the champion. They'll put me on the card. And, you know, but apparently it didn't happen.
And if you think about it, time was great for that, because their security guard, as we're going to find out later, has been out for a while. So you could have done it. And somebody could have jumped in there and just done it, and with no repercussions.
Steve the Baller Lawler show up.
We'll show who the real Lawler is finally. So, in all seriousness, though, that's a pretty big deal. Not just the fact we're having Shawn Michaels come to town, but to have a WWF Intercontinental title match on a USWA show. That's not something that had really ever happened. Like up to that point, and maybe you guys can correct me, I can't name an instance where a WWF sanctioned title had been defended on a non-WWF show. But I mean, nothing springs to mind that I could think of. So it's setting a pretty big precedent here.
Yeah, the only thing I'm thinking of is the AWA stuff. I think you're right. I don't think there was a WWE title defended.
I'm sure there was some shit in Japan, probably, but
it still would have been a WWF show. Yeah. It wouldn't have been them going to
we're going to Japan.
Well, you remember Tenryu had
it wasn't defending against Fujinami or any shit like that.
Tenryu shows that SWS back in the 90, 91. I'm pretty sure the world title may have been defended. Hogan was at one of them, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly.
I withdraw all my previous statements. This is no big deal. The fucking Shawn Michaels kids coming to town. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he may have. I don't recall. But let's hear what. And so this is pretty cool. Not only we're not just going to have a generic, hey, here's a string of matches from Shawn Michaels, some highlight clips. We're actually going to hear Shawn Michaels addressing Jeff Jarrett directly himself. So let's take a listen here and see what Shawn Michaels has to say about his upcoming title match coming to our rinky-dink organization here in Memphis.
I heard that little Jeffrey Jarrett had the audacity to come down to the World Wrestling Federation matches and make an open challenge to the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. Well, Jeffrey, my boy, you got your wish. I want you to take a look at the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion, the man that stands on top of the WWF and looks down on everybody else. You know something? You and that little rinky-dink organization of yours doesn't deserve to have a guy like me come down to your neck of the woods. But you make a challenge to me, boy, well, you've got it. Jeffrey, Shawn Michaels is walking in to Memphis, the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. My belt goes with me everywhere, so you can count on me leaving Memphis, Tennessee with my WWF Intercontinental title.
Now, I'll say this for little Jeffrey Jarrett, as Shawn referred to him. As much as Richard may hate his leaping DDT, that stupid suplex move that Shawn Michaels was using for a finish in this era wasn't much, if any, better. Am I wrong on that?
No, I hated the jobber didn't even want to take it in that video. He was just like, I ain't doing this. I'll do things for $25, but taking that dumbass move isn't one of them.
Shawn reaches down between his legs. He's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, wait a minute. Hold up, Pat.
I did love the fact that they did this WWE style, like you know how WWE Superstars and WWE Challenge used to have like the match going on the picture-in-picture, and then you'd have the small screen of the interview playing. I loved how they had the match playing in the bottom corner while he was doing his interview. That was really cool.
And it helped us too because YouTube didn't pick it out as WWF content, and we were able to show it without it getting a copyright warning. So
thanks, 92
guys. Exactly. So after we come back from the Shawn Michaels video, we get more words from Jeff Jarrett. We won't do another clip, but the part of that promo that stuck out to me was at the end when rather than saying "I've got your number Monday night," Jeff actually said, "I've got your Monday night." Did y'all catch that?
Yep.
Like, he should have left well enough alone with the first promo there, Jeff.
Well, if we know anything about Jeff, if he's gonna pat that dog, he's gonna Monday twice.
That's right. It's that second time's what really sells it. So we take another commercial break, and when we return, we hear from the brand new USWA Tag Team Champions. Let's hear a little bit from these guys.
Tag Team belt.
We are the champions. We are the champions. We are the champions of the world. That's right, baby.
All right, you've got the belts. All right.
Dave Brown, let me ask you a question. Have I ever lied to you?
Have I ever told you one lie?
Never.
You wouldn't know if I lied to you or not because you're too stupid. But no, I have never in my life lied to anybody. And last week, didn't I tell everybody, and I mean everybody, that we would beat those out of shape, out of date, fat Moondogs and take these USWA Tag Team belts? Didn't I tell you that, Dave?
Them doggies is ugly, too. Oh, they were spreading all over me. It was disgusting.
Didn't I tell you that, Dave?
You said you would take the belts, yeah.
That is exactly right. And who is standing out here? The new USWA World Tag Team Champions, Dave. Tell me. Tell me.
It's obvious who you have the belt.
Brian, how's my hair look?
Oh, you look so good, Scotty. You look so good. But now, Dave, hey, how's my hair look, Scotty?
All right, you're the champions and all of that. Is there a point?
The point is, we are the greatest team in the world. We are the greatest team that has ever been assembled in the history of professional wrestling. And I know it, and Scotty knows it. And if you don't believe me, just ask Scotty.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, it's unprecedented now. We've got the World Tag Team belts, and tonight, I can't believe right here on television, not tonight, now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take the Southern Heavyweight title from Jeff Jarrett, because I don't know why, but apparently the USWA felt the pressure from Flamingo's lawyers and got him a title shot on TV, and then later on in the show, my boy, Brian Christopher, BC, he's going to have a world title shot against the King. So you know what that means? We're going to have all the belts. We're going to have all the belts. We're going to have all the belts.
So what are your guys' thoughts of that?
So Brian didn't know the other lyrics to "We Are the Champion," and Scotty was trying to get in 4 million words in a minute and a half, but it was so entertaining. Like, they come across as true nagging heels that you just want to hate.
Those little punk ass cowards that probably cheated to get the belts, and they're just so sleazy and just trying, you know what I mean? Just Scotty with that fucking hair and shit, like in those short ass tights. It just, everything about him just screams sleazy and scumbags, and I love it.
It's so great because everybody has known guys like that and have hated guys like that. The guys that, you know, they get their way and they're out there bragging about it. We are the champions. We've got all the belts. And you just want to throw something at them. You know, you can't help it. But at the same time, I mean, they're hilarious. But I was hoping y'all noticed that. That's my first note here. It's like, clearly Brian does not know the words to "We Are the Champions" because it faded out pretty quick once he got past the main line. But what a fun deal these guys are. And while I did enjoy Burt Prentice with them out there last week and what he added to the party, you know, with a few of the lines that he dropped, I'm so glad they didn't stick Samples out here with them because, number one, I don't think he's a good fit with them. And more importantly, perhaps, it would put us right back in a Mike Samples versus Richard Lee battle. And I think we can all agree that we've met our quota on those right now. I mean, are you guys longing for, hey, let's get these guys back together out here?
I mean, he'd have to set fire to him if he wanted to get any more shit in on him, because that elbow, that was like the stiffest elbow I've ever seen in my life. And they've just had so many wars, man. Let's do it next year or something, but not right now.
Yeah, and don't worry, we'll see Mike Samples a little later, but let's not spoil that. So now, match number 1 on the show today, the USWA Southern Heavyweight title on the line as Jeff Jarrett defends against Scotty Flamingo. Let's check out some highlights.
Flamingo wrestles in out of Florida, challenging Jeff Jarrett. Across from Hendersonville, Tennessee. Flamingo backs him up against the turnbuckle. Nails him, and look at Jeff. Covers him. 1, 2, and Flamingo gets up.
Jeff went for the quick cover there. Wasn't able to hold him for the 3 count, but almost caught Flamingo by surprise and a quick 3.
Yeah, he covered him quickly in there and wasn't able to keep him down for the 3 count. So Flamingo with a shoulder now takes Jeff Jarrett, whips him in 2 ropes. Jeff goes under, comes back, rolls Flamingo up, 2 again.
Confidence level may have dropped just a notch. He takes Jeff down. That'll help get the confidence back. But look at that. Jeff kept him rolling. And it's Jarrett who comes up with the advantage.
Yeah, good move from Jeff in there. Going after Jeff. Couple of big moves from Flamingo.
And behind the Southern Heavyweight Jeff did it all. Jeff Jarrett. I thought the same thing in there. I thought I saw that. Flamingo whips him in a leg of Jarrett. Catches him with the big boot. Flamingo staggering Jarrett off the top rope. Here comes Christopher. Brian Christopher interferes. That's going to be a disqualification. Jeff's going to keep the belt, but meanwhile it's 2 against 1 in there. Oh, look out! Moondogs! Oh, here comes trouble for Christopher Flamingo. Spotted front. The Moondogs come in. And boy, they go to work on Christopher and Flamingo. Both of them have got Christopher over here. But now they're away on Christopher. Jeff's down in the ring. The big Moondog. Big splash from Moondog flat. Christopher's on the floor, and they got Flamingo in the ring. Hey, let's go to a break right here and see if we can get this squared away. We'll be back, fans. Stay with us. Look out.
Ugly splash in the corner. So this was a great opener here on television, but I guess we jinxed ourselves last week bragging that the main event didn't end with a run-in as Brian hit the ring for the DQ. Now, I will say, if Frank Morrell wasn't the second slowest counting referee in all of wrestling behind Bronco Lubitsch, Jeff would have got the win because he barely managed to break up that count, and that's with Frank counting slow as all get out. But breaks the pin up, immediately followed by the Moondogs running in. So it was good to have 1 week off from it, I guess. But fingers crossed, maybe the world title match will end a little differently. What did you guys think of this match?
That was the quickest crossbody off the top rope I've ever seen in my life. It's like Scotty turned around too quick. His timing was off or something. He turned around too quick, and Jeff was still climbing up that way. And as soon as he hit that top rope, it was like a dart. It was. Yeah. It looked wonderful, but you could tell that he was rushing it because of the early turn or whatever. But I was happy to see the Moondogs back, and Richard Lee had the whistle again. The whistle was back. I mean, he hadn't had the whistle, it seemed like, in a while. And then they come back, just bash people with chairs and stuff. Like, and especially if you want to see anybody get their head bashed in now, it's definitely Scotty and Brian, right?
Yeah, I mean, after that promo we just saw, people were probably over there just, I wish the Moondogs would get a hold of these guys. And little do they know, in just a few minutes, they were going to get their wish because, holy, they cracked those guys. They cracked those guys good when they came in.
Got them with a 2-for-1.
I will say that, 2 things that stood out to me about Scotty's time here so far. It looks like he's had 22 cups of coffee. Like, he is just, I don't know. I mean, he's not green. He's been in the business now for a while, been in WCW, but it looks like he's trying to rush everything, like the promos, the matches, like, and I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. It just looks like he's a little quick on things. And then there are less things in the Webster's dictionary that are more defined than his ass crack was in those tights. I mean, every time they showed him, it was like, I could almost draw his ass from memory now just because it was the imprint. It was like, what in the world? Corey, like, he's wearing one of them G-strings. It's a good way to get it
in there.
In there. It's in there.
It's all up in there. My only theory on that is, if you think about where Scotty's been up to now, other than his previous brief stint in Memphis early in his career in like 88. I can't think of many instances where Scotty would have been doing much live TV.
Yeah.
And wherever he certainly hadn't been doing it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'm wondering if, like you said, maybe he had a few cups of coffee to get cranked up and going at 10 in the morning. And then on top of that, probably the pressure of live interview, live match, we got to hit these times. Maybe that was, making him off his game a little bit. That's the only thing I can figure, because he had been in the business now, what is this, 93? He'd been in the business 5 or 6 years and, had done a lot, Portland and Global and WCW and everything else. So that's the only thing I can figure that would kind of maybe throw him off his game, because, and I've talked about this with Doug Gilbert on his podcast a little bit, that it's a very different feel going out there doing these live shows as it is doing the tape shows where, well, if it's too long, they'll just trim it down. If we screw up, they'll just cut it out. And if it's bad enough, we'll just redo it. That ain't the case here. If you go over, you've now screwed up the next segment. And if something bad happens, it's just out there. So that's the only thing I could attribute to. I could be completely wrong.
And I don't want to seem critical there because I don't think that it looked bad. But I mean, in Memphis where everything is just milked and milked and milked, like Scotty wasn't there, and it could just be he's not used to that style in Memphis where everything's like, as we're going to see in a little bit, there's like a 20-minute, delay on the world title match just from all the showboat and everything. And Scotty just didn't have that. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was live TV. It didn't look bad, but it definitely stood out to me.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And so we go to a break, and when we come back, maybe this is just how the tape was edited of where I got this footage, but we come back right smack dab in the middle of a Richard Lee promo. And I know we have a lot of Richard Lee fans who listen and watch the show, and I've had a couple actually write to me about the lack of Richard Lee promos on the show recently. But it's just a matter of we're trying to cut the runtime down on these shows to try to make them not quite as long to get through. And it just feels like to me, maybe I'm out of, line here, but it feels like to me, the Richard Lee promos are a lot of times the most repetitious parts of the show that I just haven't been clipping them lately because I'm like, it's just too similar to the other Richard Lee promos we've seen. But I promise we're going to try to work some in. And also, you're going to hear from Richard Lee in this clip of the highlights of the match too. So you're not going to be completely without Richard Lee this week if you're a big Richard Lee fan, because he, to Josh's point a minute ago, is going to let us know that the old butt-kicking Moondogs are back. And boy, are they. So let's take a look at a little bit of a clip here of the Moondogs doing what they do best. And who knows, we may see a little bit more of our tag champs.
Their opponent already waiting in there, Mr. Clyde and Keith Haynes, and I think Richard Lee said it correctly. I'd hate to be those kids today. Yeah, you're right about that. Boy, hate to be those two on any day, especially not this one with the Moondogs. Let me show you how it's done, Moondogs style. Boy, Mr. Clyde tries to get up to his feet, and Moondog Spot just clobbered him, catches Keith Haynes. Boy, I think that chair's been already, Dave. Goes up to the referee in that. It's been a long time coming, boss, but my old dogs are back. Moondog. That's Mr. Clyde being worked on up there, down on the floor. He just body slammed Keith Haynes, the other Moondog did. Spots the other Moondog, slamming down on Mr. Clyde. Splat's got Keith Haynes, rolls him in the ring over there. Spot with that chair. Oh, bosses Haynes again with it. Boy, he caught it. Oh, boy, look out. Here comes Christopher and Flamingo with some kind of green stuff. What in the world? Oh, boy. Doing right in the eyes of the Moondog. I don't know what that is, Dave. I don't either. Some kind of green paint or something. And Scotty Flamingo working on one of the Moondogs with a chair. Brian Christopher working on the other one. Man, I tell you what. Oh, look out. Christopher nails Moondog Spot. Oh, yeah. We're going to get him out of here. Yeah, we've got more to come from the USWA. Stay with us, fans.
I'll let you guys go first.
Oh, my.
I know exactly what that is. That's the green paint from the green screen back there, Corey.
I loved that. I loved every part of it, man, because it does feel like the old Moondogs are back and just bashing people in the heads and stuff. I mean, like, I love it. And I know it doesn't really make sense. Like, nobody put over it was a poisonous chemical, or nobody put over it's blinding them in there. Nothing. But still, that blonde hair and that green stuff, whatever the hell it was, the green stuff, as Corey said, like it looked so visually right. You know what I mean? And it added so much to the moment. And you know, like I said, they
colors.
didn't put it over as being poisonous or anything, but still, like it made sense. And yeah, man, I'm excited about the Moondogs being back. And then Brian evidently was getting a receipt because when he bashed the one Moondog the last time with the chair, he knocked the top of it out.
Yes.
Like, God, it was just awesome. Really, really, you could feel it.
I liked it. My two notes from this. So did anyone else? My mind immediately went to when Corey said green stuff. My mind immediately went to the old Sunny D commercial where they offer the kids some purple stuff.
It's the green part.
It's just a good thing he didn't throw purple stuff in his eyes there, Dave. He'd be blind for life. And of course, Dave immediately added that it looked like green paint. I'm like, that's not helpful, Dave. Let's go with green stuff. That sounds more ominous than green paint.
Is it
my other
least?
My other favorite Corey line was right out of the gate. Did you catch the burn that he gave these two guys? Dave says of Mr. Clyde and Keith Haynes, I agree with Richard Lee. I'd hate to be these two kids today. To which Corey immediately replied, I'd hate to be one of these two on any day, but especially today against the Moondogs. I was like, damn, Corey, settle down in there. You're tearing them up as bad as the Moondogs are. But no, it was definitely, it definitely felt like, quote unquote, the old Moondogs that we hadn't seen in a little while. They were a little rougher. Like I say, the whistle was back, and the crowd responded in kind. Like they were barking it up over there, and they seemed pretty excited. And honestly, anything you could do to freshen up that presentation and liven things up, because the Moondogs been swapping those tag belts with various people for quite a while now. So seeing them come out more vicious than they've been in a while, but then immediately getting green stuff in their eyes, and Brian and Scotty getting the better of them, definitely puts more interest in the match Monday night for me anyway. So I'm looking forward to finding out how that plays out a little later in the show. But right now, after all that action, I'd say it's time that we take our first podcast commercial break. And when we come back, we'll have the King, Jerry Lawler, in the studio.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
All right, guys. So Jerry Lawler's out here, and he gets right down to important business by welcoming back Ernie the security guard. And then, once he gets that out of the way, we're going to talk about what he really came here to talk about. We're going to talk about what's really happening here, what's really going to draw some money. He gives us the phone number to call if you want to book Lawler's Kings of Memphis softball team to come to your town, and they will job out your local softball team just like they do everyone else's. And Dave basically tells him to piss off so he can run down the Memphis card, and Lawler does, surprisingly. Did you guys ever get a chance to see Jerry Lawler's softball team in action back in the day?
I did not. I mean, I've worked with people that used to play softball in Memphis and stuff, and they got some stories about Sid and stuff. The one guy, he said that the first time he ever seen Sid in person was at a softball game, and he's taking a piss at the urinal, and then all of a sudden it's like a legit eclipse. Like the light gets dimmer in the bathroom, and he looks back, and it's Sid's wide ass like walking up to the urinal. But no Lawler stuff.
No, I was
make room at the pisser. I rule the world.
Now you're gonna have to bunt if we're gonna get this person home.
He fucking power bombs them if they miss.
Could you imagine arguing strikes and balls with Sid?
Oh, dude, it's whatever he says.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
But no, I wasn't a big baseball fan, so I wasn't gonna go watch. Did they do them legit, or were they like Harlem Globetrotter baseball games?
From what I understand is they were legit. I went to one when I was in college. They played, and I was watching USWA one Saturday morning, and they're like, and today at 2:00, Lawler's, whatever the hell he was calling it. It used to be Lawler's Army when I was growing up. Now there's Lawler's Kings of Memphis is going to be down in Saltillo, Mississippi, taking on the local fire department. And I'm like, Saltillo, that's between here and my house. Like, I could be there in 40 minutes. Like, screw it, I'm going. And I'm at least get a couple of autographs, get a picture that says I went that day, and I had a program from a show I went to at the Coliseum, and I got a picture with Lawler and Doug Gilbert and Brian Christopher and somebody else, and got a chance to get a picture with Lawler and get that thing signed. And it was pretty cool, but I had to sit through a softball game to get there, and that wasn't very exciting. What you described with Sid being there potentially could have been a lot more fun, because Lawler and them basically just smoked them, in a softball game, and it wasn't terribly exciting. But yeah, you had like those three, and then you had like Jerry Calhoun and a couple other random people, but those were the only three actual wrestlers that were there. But that's the only one I went to. I just was curious if y'all had seen one, because I just find it funny that that's kind of, for years, that's what Lawler would do. He would come out once, and he'd have the belt and the crown and everything. You're like, all right, we're fixing to hear about what's happening Monday night. And then it's like, hey, I'm going to be out at, Covington Pike Toyota this afternoon signing autographs. And then, later this evening, we're going to be playing softball and, podunk wherever. And then we're going to be at Jonesboro tonight. And I'll be back out later to talk about this death grudge match I'm having Monday. And then he walks out, he's all, happy, go lucky. And then 10 minutes later, he comes back out. Eddie Gilbert, you set my head on fire last week, and I'm going to kill you. But don't forget, we're going to be at Covington Pike Toyota from 2 to 4. We're going to have pictures for the kids, and it's just very different presentation of wrestling. But that's that live TV aspect of it, because it's happening today. Let's let them know today. But then again, we also got to let them know that I'm going to murder somebody Monday night, so we got to take it as it comes. But we'll go through the whole card. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I really think they missed their mark, though, by not making these like Harlem Globetrotter type games. Can you imagine if Lawler beat out a throw to first because he threw a fireball on the first baseman?
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Or Moondogs
drives, a ref makes a bad call and he drives them.
Yeah, they missed their mark on it. Sorry, I want to.
No, you're good. And we needed Corey out there calling it over the PA. Line drive to center field out there.
Come on now.
Right over Mr. Clyde's head.
That's ridiculous. Mr. Clyde plays softball about as good as he wrestles, which is the shits. Oh, I can't say that. Anyway, getting off topic. We'll go through the whole card at the end of the show, as we always do. But we find out that not only is the Heartbreak Kid coming to town Monday night to face Jeff Jarrett, but also the Big Boss Man is returning to town, and this week to team with the King to face the Harlem Knights once again. We see the WWF highlight reel of the Boss Man, and then the King comes back out. But before he gets into Monday night, let's hear from the Boss Man following. This was recorded right after his tag team match with Jarrett last week against the Harlem Knights, and then we'll hear what the King has to say about it.
See this notchstick right here? This uniform, the handcuffs, Big Boss Man. We're all just instruments of justice. And I was asked to come here by Jeff to do a job. I'm not satisfied with a job. I am law, order, and justice. That's what I stand for. And my mama and daddy always told me, says, always, son, finish what you started, because that's what makes you a man. And inside this heart beats the blood of a man. And you can count on it. Eddie Marlowe, next week, Monday night, the 29th, I want to get these Harlem Knights back in the ring because they only got a small sample of what law, order, and justice is all about. It's time for them to serve a maximum sentence.
All right. I want to tell you something. Now, the Harlem Knights, one of them weighs, what, 525 pounds? The other one about 350. Yeah, they're big. Maybe a little fat in there, too. That's right. Well, I'm going to tell you something. We got the big boss man with a little bit of revenge on his mind. And I know the big boss man, and I know what he's capable of doing, and especially if he starts swinging that nightstick. So, Harlem Knights, when he says you're in store for a little law and order, believe me, you're going to find out exactly what he means by that. And when the king tells you, when the king says that it's time for some hot Memphis nights, you're going to find out what I mean by that. Now, I'm talking about somebody, when I said 525 pounds, somebody said fat. Now, what that reminds me of, we're getting close. I don't know if the Harlem Knights realize that every year in this town, there's a big event called Memphis in May. And what's one of the big events of Memphis in May? What was that again? It's the big barbecue. That's when they take a nice, big, fat roasting pig and they barbecue it. Well, let me tell you something. I love Memphis in May, and we may start it just a little bit early. We may start it Monday night with those big, fat, barbecue pig Harlem Knights right down there at the Coliseum. So get ready.
Oh, my goodness. Richard, did you write that promo for Lawler? What are you doing?
Is it strange that he's like, we're going to roast a pig and his partner is Big Boss Man? It's like,
yeah. I was amused by the line at the beginning of Boss Man's promo when he said, I was asked by Jarrett to do a job and I wasn't happy with that job. If you take that line literally, it takes on a whole nother meaning, which was really funny. But no, it was a good promo from Boss Man.
Yeah. It was kind of cool that they cut Jeff right out when he started talking.
Yeah. I'm guessing when they recorded that promo, they didn't realize Shawn was coming town this week, and they're like, no, we're changing this up. Cut it. But yeah, so it was cool this week to actually get to hear the Boss Man talk about his upcoming match and hear him, referring to the Harlem Knights and referring to coming to Memphis, everything again, rather than just that generic, highlight reel that we saw again this week. But then, like I say, we got to hear from him. And then we cut back to the King, who I feel like it's like the 5th week in a row he's implying he's going to throw fire at somebody. And considering we just saw Eddie Gilbert actually do it in the studio last week, I feel like we're going to that well a little too much, maybe. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. What do you guys think about that?
Well, we can't cut anybody's hair. We got to throw fire. What are you trying to handcuff us for, Gene?
I know. I griped about them going to the hair match too often. So I'm like, all right, well, let's do fire. And then they're like, well, now Fat Boy's griping about that. I guess it's all. I don't know. But yeah, so they're going to roast a pig down there. My goodness, that was a little stiff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and if you think back, wasn't it like, you never want to just outright destroy and eat your opponent up with words. Just kind of tell them they're bad people and stuff. He was like, he's a fat pig, and we're going to set him on fire.
Yeah. Shit. It reminds me of that promo Brian did on Moondog Splat 2 or 3 weeks ago, where he's like, he's a big, fat, disgusting slob. Like, Jesus, Brian. And I'm guessing a couple of these big splashes in the corner and a couple of those splashes in the middle, I have to imagine each time in Splat's mind, he's hearing that promo in his head as he just squashes Brian half to death.
He wakes up on Saturday morning. Well, it's a no deodorant day. Working Brian on TV.
3rd day for these underwear.
I ain't washed these britches in 3 weeks. Just for you, Brian. All right, so it's time for match number 3 of the day, the Unified World Title match. The King taking on Brian Christopher right here on live TV. This should be fun. Let's check it out.
And we'll guard it, let me tell you. Hey, all right, the first action is Brian Christopher immediately jumping out. He hadn't hit you with a fist.
He hadn't used the fist. Christopher already complaining about the fist. I think he's already daydreaming.
Get the referee watching the opponent closely.
Yeah.
Maybe provide an opening for yourself to do something that is not within the rules.
That's probably what he's thinking. Lawler whips Christopher in. Brian Christopher hangs on. Yeah. Does his little Christopher strut in there.
Yeah, outsmarted him, he said.
His knee right in the midsection. Reversal here. Christopher comes off. Right out from the King sends him down. He busted him right in the mouth with that one.
And I'm not sure what he had that fist closed up when he hit him there, huh?
Yeah.
And now that's what Brian is saying. He said, hey, hit me with a fist. But the crowd says, I don't think so. Yeah, I think he did, too. Christopher is steamed. He's going into that little...
Oh, look at this. He's using the fist. Watch Christopher over here. He's going in his tights there now.
And the referee warning Lawler about the fist. He said, wait a minute, he hit me with it. Yes. Did he have a chain or something?
I can tell what it was. He looked like something he busted him with, and it didn't look like a chain. He had it balled up in his hand. Puts him into the turnbuckle! Lawler gets out of the way. The strap comes down, and the King goes to work on Brian Christopher. Flips Christopher out of the corner. On the middle rope is Lawler. Comes down on him.
All right. As we end that clip, Jerry Lawler has just hit Brian Christopher with his patented fist drop from the ropes. So for all our listeners and viewers joining us this week, we're going to make this like one of those choose your adventure games. What do you think happens next? Does Jerry Lawler now pin Brian Christopher and we have a clean finish in a championship match on television? Does Lawler go for a pin, but Brian Christopher kicks out and the match continues? Does Brian's tag team partner, Scotty Flamingo, run in to attack Lawler? Well, considering we just spent several minutes prior to this match talking about Lawler's upcoming tag team match against the Harlem Knights on Monday, I think we all know the formula by now, but in case you don't, let's go check out and see who's right about what happened in this match.
Opens Lawler, comes down on him. He busts Christopher. Watch out, Jerry. Here comes the Harlem Knights in there. 850 pounds. Boy, they slammed down on Lawler.
They both jumped the King. Oh, driving that shoulder into him. Got him over in the corner. Look out. Both of them.
Oh, boy. Watch out. Oh, gee. 525 pounds and 325 pounds of these guys jump on Jerry. Boy, I got to get some help for the King out here. This kind of stuff is ridiculous. These Harlem Knights in here. He's got Jerry stretched out and the big guy on the middle rope in there. He's coming down on him, Dave.
The Harlem Knights have interfered. That stops the match.
Hey, you guys, come on, would you?
You people, you've been thinking for years that that's the king of the USWA. We are the new king. We will dominate. You call us fat? Well, you look mighty fat down there right now. We are the new king. Hail the Harlem Knights.
Man, you guys.
All right, guys, what have you got to say about that whole segment there?
You call that fat? You call that fat? You look fat down there now. Yeah, I think he did take some offense to that promo there.
Good one, Mabel. Got him.
Oh,
then he drops the mic
fat down there right now. He dropped Dave's mic. I figured Dave was gonna come out there and slap the shit out of him.
Oh God, yeah, because there's probably not a replacement.
No.
How would we do the show? Dave have to be close to the camera and shit.
It'd be some shit if Dave comes over the back and just has a mic cord and just starts strangling him with it. Let me tell you one thing, you son of a bitch.
Oh shit.
Predict an ass whooping moving in today around now.
Yeah. How annoying though would it be if somebody, I don't know, me for the whole episode, just every 2-3 minutes sounded like I was having an apnea stroke in the middle of my sleep and just went no! Just for no reason at all. Would that be cool if I just did that every 5 seconds?
Here's the thing. Okay, the first week they decided, hey, what if we make this random noise when we go out there? Somebody had to have showed at some point they had to see footage of that played back. How do you watch that back and hear that go like, oh yeah, that's the one right there. Let's do that every time we're on TV. Like, I understand you tried it once, that wasn't the move, but no, they like, oh yeah, that's what we need to do right there. And it just kept doing it. It was so annoying. Oh my God. I've been defending these guys left and right. I can't defend that. That's annoying as shit.
And I mean, here's the thing. The wrestling part was fun, and I want to be positive because I don't hate these guys. It's just the fact that it's like every 5. I had to fast forward through some of the match later because it was just, it sounds like he's yelling "do." I don't know what it is, but it's annoying. And it's not, I know they're heels and you want to get heat on them, but for me, it's kind of like, I'm annoyed. I don't want to see somebody beat them up. I just don't want to hear this anymore.
You want your TV to catch fire.
Yes.
Well, more on that later. So we close that segment out with Nelson Knight getting his good burn in on Lawler, saying, you call us fat, you look pretty fat down on the mat right now. And we go to commercial break, and when we come back from commercial break, guys, what better way to follow up an impromptu Harlem Knights promo with, you guessed it, a regularly scheduled Harlem Knights promo. Except it gets even better. Okay. Again, I've been defending these guys. I've been a fan of the Harlem Knights. But much to my dismay, it now seems they have taken on Mike Samples as their manager. And Mike Samples tells us that this is a brand new tag team that we've never seen before. And Dave Brown quickly corrects him and says, no, they've been here for a few weeks now. And Samples tells him that, no, this is the new Harlem Knights. So earlier, Richard Lee brought us the old Moondogs. Now Mike Samples is bringing us the new Harlem Knights. I feel like somehow those two things cancel each other out and just negate each other. I don't know. How do you guys feel? I know you guys just talked about how Richard especially is not a huge fan of the Harlem Knights. How do you feel that now that Mike Samples has been added to the mix?
I feel like they'll be Russian in no time.
Oh my God. If they'd have been the Russian Knights all of a sudden, that would have been amazing.
We're relocating. We're going to Russia.
Mike, clearly they weren't over in Russian starving with the Russian brute here. You have to change the narrative.
Oh man. I what's funny about it is I don't mind Mike Samples. I feel like this will make the interviews a little bit better because as we're going to see in a minute, sometimes left to their own devices, they can get a little squirrely with those mics. So, at least Mike Samples has some, good wits and some zingers. He'll cut down Uncle Danny and say he looks like Barney Rubble. He'll chew up people verbally. So I think this could help. Maybe he could tell him stop doing the do thing so much.
If he stops that, if 1 week after they start coming out with Mike Samples, if they've suddenly stopped doing that, we're going to give Samples full credit, and he will have redeemed everything I've ever not liked about Mike Samples. However, when Mike Samples did get over with me, it was when he said that Richard Lee gets his suits outside the dumpster of the thrift store. It looked like that's exactly where that suit had came from. Like, damn, Mike, you nailed that one. Good job. I think one of those matches that I could have skipped. Just to be an asshole, we're going to watch the Harlem Knights in action just because I feel like we need to. So
today against, we didn't even really get time to make any introductions here. Jerry Sherman and Tim Sadler, their opponents here. As the Harlem Knights, the announcement is made by a lot of bad things to say. That's right. Now,
I'm so happy. I'm so ecstatic. I might jump right on this table and do a dance. That's how good I feel. These men, they were mean and they were vicious and they were bad, but now they're 10 times meaner. They're 10 times badder, and they're about 20 partners because these men can beat 21 and 22 people at a time. Just do as you please and say whatever you want to do. That's what bothers me. Mike, what's going to bother their opponents is what I tell them to do to their opponents. And you just watch. The hospital bills are going to start going out tonight, and he can't move. Picks up Timmy Sadler. Bobby Knight comes off with a big splash. Boy, and I tell you, that's just about going to do it. 2, 3, and they get Timmy Sadler 10. Harlem Knights get to 1.
That you remove your wrestlers from the wrestling area.
Yeah, you tell the referee to remove the wrestlers. You don't like it? You do something about it, Carter. Come on, Mike, get him out of here.
Now they got Timmy Sadler hung up in the corner here. That big splash into him.
Yeah.
I think where they slingshot him in there. Here comes some help.
Uh-oh, here comes the king. Jerry Lawler. Oh, the king. Throws fire on Bobby Knight over there. That'll get him out of here, I bet you. Yeah, he lit him up. And Lawler just goes right out of the area. How about that, Samples? Took him out of here.
Well, there's a lesson for you, Mike Samples and the Harlem Knights. You had the opportunity after winning the match to lead and wouldn't do it, and that is exactly what happened.
So, not to pat myself on the back, but I feel like Harlem Knights squash matches would have been a lot more effective if they'd went at the rate that I edit these things down to about a minute 10 at best. Yeah. It highlights their best moves, keeps things moving. It's less time that you just hear that constant in the background. But the King had alluded to what we assumed. We thought he was talking about Monday night. He is coming here and he has burned Bobby Knight right here in the studio. What in the world? How? What do you guys think about the match? Then what do you think about Lawler lighting him up?
I mean, I didn't dislike the match, but like you're talking about, I felt it was a couple minutes too long. But at the same time, it seemed like it was more together than the matches that they've had previously that we've reviewed. Like it seemed like it flowed a little bit better. The finish that they did, it was awesome. Like it looked better than the one that they did last week. So they're moving in a positive direction that way. But I swear to God, if Eddie Gilbert throws fire on TV again and makes Lawler come out here and have to set a son of a bitch clean on fire to get it to top it, because that's what it felt like. It was like, okay, how am I going to top what Gilbert did? Because that was one of the damnedest things I've ever seen. And I got it. I'll just set his fucking face on fire.
I have a theory as to why Lawler was so mad. The long-haired guy that looked kind of like a janitor that was wearing, what was clearly Lawler's singlet. He just didn't want that singlet messed up. It's going to get ripped. So he came out there and he was like, "You ain't going to mess up my singlet. I'll burn you, you son of a bitch."
Protecting his investment.
Yes. Because, you think about it. It's like, why is that guy that looks like a janitor wearing a one-strap poison ivy, Lawler wore like a Batman get up with the poison ivy singlet underneath. That was definitely Lawler's gear. That dude showed up with t-shirt and jeans, and Lawler's like, "You can't wear that on TV. Here, wear this."
Yeah, Lawler's like, "I got 12 singlets and tights in my bag. Just put these on. Don't mess them up. Don't shit yourself on one of those splashes that they give you, because they're going to splash you in the corner 2 or 3 times, and he may come off the ropes on you. God only knows. So
don't get near Mo whenever I enter the ring."
Yeah. So,
you son of a bitch! What I tell you?
Was it just me, or did Corey sound like he couldn't have been happier if he'd won the freaking lottery when he lit Bobby Knight's head up? He lit up himself like, "Oh, you keep burning!" He sounded just absolutely tickled.
We were supposed to add to that.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I was kind of reliving it in my head for a minute there, wondering if I was exaggerating. But I was like, no, he really was excited.
No. It was like his team.
If I'm Bobby Knight, I'd be like, "Hey man, why were you so damn happy I got burned today? Like, what was that about? Like that damn noise you make, man."
It was like that team, his favorite team had just won the Super Bowl, He's like, maybe he burned his tongue. Maybe he did. They can't do that damn do noise again.
Line his tongue up, Jerry. I said, quit doing that moo sound. He sounds like a wounded animal.
Yeah, he's too big and bad for me to tell him he's got Tourette's.
I don't need Uncle Ruckus whooping my ass up in here. Then we go to highlights of the tag team match with Uncle Danny and referee Frank Morrell taking on PG-13. And at first, I wasn't going to show a clip of this, but honestly, I think the clip will probably take less time to explain what's going on than it would be for us to discuss all of it. So let's take a quick look at this. More hubcap shenanigans from PG-13.
Wolfie D in the ring. Frank Morrell going to work on Wolfie D. Casey Ice came in with that hubcap. Frank Morrell kick in the midsection, trying to get the hubcap from him. Casey Ice just nailed him with it. Paul Neighbors counts to 1, 2, 3. 17 minutes, 51 seconds. Asking him, they say, yeah. Oh, they nailed referee Paul Neighbors over there. Pick up the hubcap, and now Danny Davis with it. Prentice has got Paul Neighbors. Oh, they slammed down on Paul. 17 minutes, 51 seconds. PG-13 has just gone berserk. Got referee Frank Morrell and Paul Neighbors in there. And Danny Davis working over all of them. Prentice is in there with him.
Let me tell you something. It looks like PG-13 has everything going their way. You know, I proved to you in the past that in singles competition, I can beat you guys. But every time I've stepped in the ring with you guys in a tag team situation, you guys have always come out victorious. And the reason you've come out victorious is plain and simple. It's not because of your wrestling ability. It's because of that hubcap you bring to the ring and you use on your opponents, such as myself and my good friend Frank Morrell. People's heads. Well, I'm going to tell you something. This week, we have a special referee. And all these fans out here, they know who this special referee is going to be when they walk out. This person is no stranger to you. So right now, I would like to bring out that special referee for this week. Miss Casey.
Yes, this week I am the special referee. Now, PG-13, you're supposed to be so cool. Yeah. Well, you better go by the rules. Because if you step out of line, I am the punk slapper, and you are the punks.
I guess what she said, PG-13, is if you step out of line, she'll take that hubcap and bust you over the head with it. And since you are a punk, she'll slap the punk right off your face.
We missed the last line there where he said, she'll slap the punk right off your face. So that would suck to have that happen.
Bell, Frank's back's hurting from carrying that team.
I've gotten a couple of messages this week from people who say that is their new favorite part of the show. They love hearing from your
my grandmother.
Yes,
he's going to be in town soon. I asked Josh, you think we could get him over to just piss on her grave one good time? So this is going to seem weird, Danny. This is a feud you didn't know about.
I swear to God, it's going to make sense to a lot of people.
At the end of his Hall of Fame speech, if he just is like, Richard's grandma, suck it! I made it! Yeah. More on that later. But
by the way, lose at that one too. They're probably going to take that award right from him because he's going to lose that too.
So, yeah, we got another tag team match coming up. We're going to get a rematch with Uncle Danny and Frank Morrell taking on PG-13. But this time, we got a special referee in Miss Texas, and she is the punk slapper, and they are the punks, which kind of works out, right? I mean, if you know,
perfect looking.
You have a couple of punks, you need a punk slapper there to be the referee. So I found it funny. You don't see it from that clip I just showed, but if you're watching the actual episode as we did, as Uncle Danny is still talking, Lawler starts coming on out there, and they cut the camera to him. We can hear Danny Davis, but we're seeing Lawler, which I thought was kind of tacky, but I guess we're running short on time because everything is kind of sped up from this point on. And at the end of Lawler cuts another little promo because here lately it seems like we're always doubling down. We come out and we do, Jarrett was out here twice. Now Lawler's out again. And he manages to mention that Bobby Knight just got a sample of what it's like to get barbecued. And my favorite part of this is we got another of Dave Brown's Jim Halpert moments here. I had to go back and get a screenshot of that. That face he makes right when Lawler says that tickles me every time he does that kind of thing. So,
well, I think you missed the gym this episode then, because when Brian Christopher told him in the promo, "No, you don't understand that because you're too stupid," and that eyebrow, the rocked like it was so profound. It was great.
I may have to go pull that and show it next week. I missed it. All right. Well, next up, we have a commercial break. And when we come back from the commercial, we're going to hear from PG-13. But right now, let's run our second and last podcast commercial break of the show. And then let's come back and see what PG-13's up to.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up and coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
All right. Before we went and heard from our sponsors, we saw Bobby Knight getting his head lit up again, and my goodness, slow motion. It's even harder to watch.
I don't know how do you take care of somebody like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he says, I'll just get it near your face, but you've got beard and all that. So I don't know, man. It literally looks like Lawler went up there to scar him up. You know, I'm gonna put it right in your face.
So, Richard, have you ever gotten a fireball thrown at you in wrestling?
No, not thrown at me. We were in the vicinity of like one of those spellbinder, flame coming out of you. Yeah, which is the same thing. Yeah. But nothing thrown at me.
I had it a couple of times, and there's not a lot of heat that comes off of it, but you have to be careful with how much paper you use. I did have a bunch of hair singed off my face and had to shave my beard at the time because it singed off enough of the hair. It looked like I had mange or something, and I had to go back and shave it off. And then another instance, I was in a match where somebody was tagging. I was tagging with somebody, and for the finish, a guy was going to be making a cover. Babyface was going to be covering. It was a 6-man tag, and so Babyface was going to be covering one of the heels, and the other guy, they wanted me to do it. I'm like, I've never done that. I'm not doing that. They're like, all right, well, as he's pinning him, we want you to throw a fireball in his face. So this guy had never done it before. So he grabs a wad of flash paper that looked like a freaking tennis ball, lights it, drops it down, and it just kind of rolls past that guy's face, lands on the other guy's chest, and just burns out on his chest. And turns out if flash paper sits somewhere and there's a lot of it, it does get pretty hot. And this guy had a big old, it looked like he had open heart surgery, whereas all the hair was burned off his chest right in the middle of it. It was terrible. So that was my two experiences with the old fire gimmick. So we come back from that commercial break, and we come back. Mike Samples and the Harlem Knights have come out again and cut what I consider to be a somewhat unnecessary promo. I don't know. I guess we're addressing the fact that Bobby Knight just got, flying, got his head set on fire, but he's holding a towel to his face. Like, I don't know. After getting his head burned, I'd rather just not see him again. But instead, he's out there and he's with a vengeance now, and cuts a promo. And so this is their third promo from the Harlem Knights today. What do you guys think? Am I being a jerk here? Did we need a third promo to set up this match Monday night? Was that necessary, or were we good? Am I wrong?
I'm sorry, but like once you get that ass burnt on TV, you're out for the day. You don't come back. I could see maybe like Nelson coming back out and being like, I'm going to kick everybody's ass and we're going to get revenge because you tried to burn my brother and all this. But no, don't let him come back out there with a towel and stuff.
Yeah.
It just kind of shits all over the fireball in the first place.
At the same time, Lawler was just splashed from the second rope by a 500-pound man. Should Lawler have even been out there to do this?
We talked about it a couple of weeks ago when Jarrett pretty much took the same thing, and we talked about the fact that Jeff is over there cutting a promo a couple minutes later. Now we've tried to sell the fact that Jerry's been squashed by Nelson, and here he's able to come back out in the very next segment and roll in and throw a fireball. I don't think it builds those guys up. I don't think Jarrett coming out previously and Lawler coming out really helps sell the severity of these splashes from the combined weight of 850-pound guys, and it doesn't sell the fireball that Bobby's back out here just holding a towel to his face. I'm not blaming him, and I'm sure that's what he was instructed to do, but I'm like, Josh, it's like, okay, if Samples wants to come out, if Nelson wants to come out, but we didn't need to see Bobby Knight back out here after taking the fireball. But
I think it would have been better to just see Mike Samples come out and be like, now they're pissed off, something without even having to see them,
Yeah, and I don't think we really need to hear from Samples. I think we know that they're pissed off they got burned with a fireball. I don't think any of them need to come out and tell us that. We got it. And they already really seem pressed for time, but we come back, match number 5, PG-13, JC Ice and Wolfie D taking on Bill Rush and Tony Williams. And I feel like at this point in time in 93, Bill Rush exclusively wrestles PG-13 because I think he's been in almost every TV match that PG-13 has had. I can't name anyone else I've seen Bill Rush wrestle since he's been here besides PG-13, or am I forgetting somebody?
If he was the Cheetah Kid or whatever that Danny paralyzed a few weeks ago, maybe. I mean, I don't know. He still has use of his limbs, so I don't think that was him.
That's true.
I think that was just a poor, unfortunate soul.
So we're running a little short on time, so we're not going to show clips. It kind of follows the same pattern of the recent PG-13 matches we've seen here. So we're going to move past it, but before we do, is there anything from this match you guys do want to point out? I know we did see quite a few high-flying moves from both Jamie and Wolfie in this match at different stages.
I did get a little scared for Jamie there, not Jamie, Wolfie there, when they were doing the hip toss leapfrog, and I guess the timing got caught, and I think Tony kicks him straight in the head while he's ducking down. It looked like he jammed his neck up there or something. They even mentioned it on TV. It looks like he got his bell rung, but you could tell he got out of the ring and kind of had to shake it off a minute. I was like, man, he looked like he got hurt there. Other than that, I really enjoyed the PG-13 match because I'm a big fan of these guys right now.
And the fans are liking them too. They're getting a pop when they come out, and then they do dastardly things that, get some heat in the end. But the crowd's response when that music plays and they come through that curtain every week, they're getting a pop, and at different stages of the match, they're doing, Wolfie's doing these freaking moonsaults off the top rope and Jamie's diving to the floor. And so they're fighting an uphill battle to be heels, but so far they're pulling it off. But again, I think that, as history's going to prove, when they finally get around to turning babyface, that's really going to be when they hit their stride and I think they're really a team that the fans can get behind, as we will see in the not too distant future. We still got a little while of heel PG-13. So, all right, guys, it's that time. Let's let them run down the card here and find out what this has all been building towards, and then we'll see what you guys thought of today's show. We'll probably kind of maybe know what the least favorite is, but we won't speculate. We'll wait and see what you guys have to say about it. But let's hear. I didn't have to cut any part of Dave and Corey running down the card because you can tell they had run short on time and they blew through it, which was perfect. So here we go.
The Mid-South Coliseum, the opener will have Miss Texas going against Leslie Bellinger in a single match. Following that, you got the Rock and Roll Phantom going against Tony Williams. Just saw Tony in action right here today. Yeah, he's got a real opportunity coming up Monday night against the Rock and Roll Phantom. Following that, PG-13 will be going against Danny Davis and Frank Morrell. The return tag team match. Frank Morrell says I'm glad to get another chance at him. And don't forget the special referee. The announcement made out here just moments ago. Miss Texas, the special referee in this match. Following that, you got the tag titles at stake. Brian Christopher, Scotty Flamingo. They own the World Tag Team belts right now. They won them from the Moondogs, and the Moondogs are looking to take them back. Richard Lee will have the Moondogs ready to go. Green paint or whatever that was thrown in their face here today. I bet you that'll just serve to make them mad. Brian Christopher and Scotty Flamingo better look out with their World Tag Team titles at stake. Then the King and the Big Boss Man as his partner will go against the huge Harlem Knights. That's not all, though. The final match of the night, the main event, months in the making. But the promoters have finally been able to get this one signed. Jeff Jarrett gets that chance at Shawn Michaels and the WWF Intercontinental title. It will be defended right here, Memphis, Tennessee, at the Mid-South Coliseum this Monday night.
All right, guys, there's the card for Monday. So it's that time once again. Let's ask you a few questions and see how you feel about today's episode. Starting with number one, what was your least favorite part of today's episode?
So I thought we were making progress with the run-ins and the DQ aspect of everything.
Yeah.
And the last two episodes that we reviewed, you know, it seemed like it was really, really good progress. I think I maybe remember one or two run-ins and DQs happening. And then we get, what was it, 3? At least 3, maybe 4 this episode. And you know, it's not a specific match that I didn't like, because all the matches for the most part I could put my stamp of approval on one way or another, but it just feels like we're sliding away, you know what I mean? And it's kind of taking a bit of the steam out of the whole thing, but hopefully next week will be a little better.
Yeah.
All right, Richard, which Harlem Knights segment did you not enjoy this week?
I'm gonna be honest, man. Like when I heard the card that was run down, I had so much hope for this show because I'm like, man, you know, we're getting 2 title matches. You know, I was just so awesome. This is going to be great. But just kind of like what Josh said, the amount of non-clean finishes. But the one thing that you just brought up that was also something I had to fast forward through most of that Harlem Knights match because of the dues, you know, yeah. I honestly, it was on my nerves so bad, and I'd had a long week, and I just could not take that do anymore. So that was probably my least favorite part, was just the audible doos.
I've talked about this before on other podcasts, but there is a difference between I want to see these guys get their ass kicked heat, and I've got to turn this shit off heat. I can't take this. I don't want to watch this heat. And that noise they're making, it definitely crosses over into the, oh my God, get this off my screen type heat. So yeah, I can agree with that. But yeah, I definitely can agree with both sentiments there. My least favorite part about this show was the fact that we were right back to, I understand this show only serves the purpose to set up the cards for the towns, and especially Monday night. But damn, there's got to be a way to do it without having this formulaic, okay, we're going to watch this match, but we know none of it means anything because we're just waiting for the run-in. That's it. We're just simply waiting for the run in of whoever they're wrestling this week. We can't keep doing that. Come on. There's got to be more creative ways to set up matches than having every match in that way. And you covered such a big area with your TV coverage. Not everybody was in a position to be able to come to shows where eventually, I mean, some people are just going to be like, well, why am I watching this? None of the matches are going to come to any kind of conclusion, and I can't drive to Memphis, or I can't drive to Nashville, or wherever it is.
Right.
So I feel like you got to find a happy medium there. So flip side of that, what was your most favorite part of this show?
Watching the do guy get burned. No, I mean, I thought the undercard for this whole TV show was good. You know what I mean? Like, it gave us some good pairings, some good matchups. It's the direct opposite of what we're going to see Monday night, where the undercard was flipped. Like, the matches slowly got better. It seemed like we tried to get everything in on the first couple minutes of this show, and the undercard was just, it was stacked. That, like I said, the Fireball were two of my favorite things.
Josh?
So what we're seeing, like, as these weeks are going by, is just PG-13 consistently rising above just a little bit further than they were the last week and the week before. And they are doing dastardly shit every Monday night, and I'm assuming on the spot shows too. And they're trying to make people hate them. But whenever you hear Hip Hop Hooray kick in and then they just pop through the curtain, you hear at least 10 girls start screeching. And everybody in the crowd is doing the hey, oh, even and they're not initially doing it, but whenever they see the crowd doing it, you could tell they start throwing the hands too and agging it on a little bit. You can't help but engage, you know. And Bill Rush and Tony Williams, my God, those are the perfect two opponents to let PG-13 just showcase everything. And they did that. They showcased most of their arsenal. It was great match. I mean, you know, other than the little stinger incident with the drop kick from Tony Williams, but still just great stuff, man. And I'm just so excited moving forward to see PG-13 just keep rising above, you know, because one of my absolute favorite tag teams ever in the Memphis area.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little more about them once we talk about the card for this week. And I guess the next natural question is, would today's TV, even though it didn't kind of live up to the hopes that it, you know, established on the front end once they told you what was coming and then what they delivered, would it make you come down to the Coliseum and buy a ticket Monday night?
Hell yeah. Shawn Michaels sent the tape in. It doesn't really matter what happened, anything else. I want to go see Jeff versus Shawn. That seems like it has the makings to be one of the best matches in the Coliseum that we've seen of the coming shows so far. And yeah, I would definitely beg my mom to take me.
I would go. I would be fine with arriving a little late, to be honest. Seeing Tony Williams in the Rock and Roll Phantom is not like the main event in any arena that you might think it might be. But yeah, the second half of that show sounds great. I'm going to have a good hearty dinner first before I head out to the Mid-South Coliseum. You know, like I said, the back half of that show, though, looks awesome. We start getting Uncle Danny in there with Frank Morrell, and then it all goes uphill after that, or down. Whatever's good. I don't know if it's uphill or downhill. Whatever's good, it goes that way following that match.
You know, I've kind of wanted to, you know, thought in the back of my mind, like, man, I kind of like to see PG-13 against, you know, a little more top level competition on TV. We've only seen them against enhancement guys, but that's allowed us to see them get wins and have finishes, because, you know, as well as I do, had they taken on a established tag team, the ending would have been Uncle Danny and Frank Morrell would have had to somehow get involved. So for that reason, I'm kind of okay with it. So, but yeah, I would definitely, I'm with Josh. 1993, you're bringing Shawn Michaels to town, especially to wrestle Jeff Jarrett with, you know, where he's at in his career right now. I'm there. If I had to sit in the car until, intermission and wait and come in, I'm going, because how often are you going to get an opportunity to see a WWF Intercontinental title match against one of your local guys right there in Memphis? So definitely going. Now, before we run down what actually took place, we got a couple of more notes out of the Observer we'll run down real quick. Nothing groundbreaking, but I did find it interesting that it said Shawn Michaels will be having his first and only pre-WrestleMania matches after his shoulder separation he suffered on March 29th in Memphis, as he'll be defending the Intercontinental title against Jeff Jarrett on Monday night in Memphis, and on Tuesday night he'll be facing Jerry the King Lawler on a show in Louisville. It'll be the first time a WWF title is at stake on a USWA show. So I thought that was interesting that this would kind of be Shawn's prep for WrestleMania coming up at that time. And then they also confirmed that Eddie Gilbert has quit the company despite the fact that he's still being advertised for out-of-town spot shows, and he's even telling some people he's considering getting out of the business altogether. Now, we know that didn't transpire, but we also know that Eddie did have some political aspirations around this time, and I'm sure he did maybe think that if those went his way, that maybe he would start easing his way out of the business as early as 1993. So thought that was interesting, worth mentioning. And they also talked about, and I think Corey and Dave talked about this during that segment of the show, that Macho Man Randy Savage is returning to the USWA on April 14th through the 16th, where he will be working in Oxford, Mississippi, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and Nashville. I want to go back in time and punch somebody for not knowing that Randy Savage was wrestling just like an hour from my house in Oxford back then, and somehow I didn't find out about it till after it had already happened. Right. Still to this day hurts my soul. So March 29th, 1993 at the Mid-South Coliseum. Unfortunately, we do not have a attendance for this. We don't have the amount of people, nor do we even have a cash total for the gate, which, God, I would love to know what this drew. I really would. Opening match, Lauren Davenport beat Miss Texas. It was advertised to be Leslie Bellinger, but those two are kind of interchangeable, and I'm shocked to see that she beat Miss Texas, to be quite honest. In the second match of the night, the Rock and Roll Phantom beat Tony Williams. No surprise there, even though I like Tony Williams, but still. In the third match, Nightmare Danny Davis and Frank Morrell defeated PG-13 when Frank Morrell pinned Wolfie. Miss Texas was a special referee. In the fourth match for the USWA Tag Team titles, the Moondogs, Spot and Splat, beat Brian Christopher and Scotty Flamingo to regain the USWA Tag Team titles when Spot pinned Brian Christopher. Well, that was a short title reign. And then in the fifth match, the semi-main event. Now, here's some news. It was scheduled to be the Harlem Knights versus Jerry Lawler and the Big Boss Man. The Big Boss Man was not there. We don't have any explanation for his no-show. So what did we do? We put Jeff Jarrett in there right before the biggest match of his career. Right. Immediately before the biggest match of his career, he does a tag team match where he and Jerry Lawler lose to the Harlem Knights by disqualification. I haven't seen a clip of it yet. I can only assume it probably involves Lawler burning the other Harlem Knight probably for the DQ. Because again, that's another formula we've kind of figured out back to the Lex Luger match where Lawler just beats us over the head. It was going to be a hot night down there Monday night. Do you get what I'm saying? It's going to be like barbecue. You get it? You get it? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. And then next thing you know, he's getting DQ'd down there for throwing a fireball at somebody. And since he can't throw a big enough one to burn both of them at once, he had to burn one on TV, and then he'll burn the other one at the Coliseum. That's just my speculation. We'll find out next week if, in fact, that's true. And then in the main event for the WWF Intercontinental title, I can only assume because he was so freaking tired from just having had a tag match against 850 pounds worth of Harlem Knights, Jeff Jarrett fell in defeat to the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
After all that talk where Boss Man was like, my mom and daddy told me you don't leave finished business unfinished.
And then he realized, like, oh, I don't care what they say.
Yeah, I hated my mom and daddy.
I'm guessing another line from that promo came into play. He found out that Jarrett was still wanting him to come in and do a job, and he wasn't happy with that job, so he didn't come to town this time.
That's crazy.
And then just for fun, I do have the results for the following night, March the 30th in Louisville, Kentucky. I do have the attendance for that. 1,100 people showed up in Louisville when they typically drew 300 to 400. And again, most of the card we're still on the week before. So Nightmare Danny Davis defeated the Rock and Roll Phantom. Brian Christopher defeated the Big Black Dog. Danny Davis and Frank Morrell defeated PG-13. Now, this is where this shit gets fun to me. On Tuesday night, Brian Christopher and Scotty Flamingo defeated the Moondogs to win the tag team titles that they lost the previous night in Memphis. But it's not like they won them back. It's just they won them for the first time. And then next week in Louisville, they'll come back and lose them again because that's how it worked back then. Now, get this. While the Big Boss Man was not in attendance on Monday night at the Coliseum, the USWA's main town, he was in Louisville where he teamed with Jeff Jarrett to defeat the Harlem Knights. And then in the main event, in a USWA Unified World Title versus WWF Intercontinental title match, Jerry the King Lawler defeated Shawn Michaels by disqualification.
Wow.
And I mainly want to read those results mostly just because how the hell does the Big Boss Man miss Memphis and show up in Louisville? Unless he was hanging out at Cornette's house or something, because that's his former, manager.
Maybe he pulled up and he was like, there ain't nobody here. Fuck this. I'll try again tomorrow,
Yeah,
maybe.
That's crazy.
We're not doing it on Friday, brother. Oh, shit, my bad. I thought it was a Friday night thing.
That's my bad, Jerry Jarrett. I apologize, sir. That's on me.
Big Boss is gonna take the L on this one.
I'll be back. Just don't advertise it in case something goes wrong. It'll be a surprise. So, guys, it was a fun show. Before we go, I do want to mention, I remember this stuff so well. It's just really hard for me to wrap my head around the fact to think this show we watched today is 31 years old. I can't fathom that. You know what I mean? And so, and some of these guys that we're watching, a lot of these guys that we're watching are now Hall of Famers. And some of the guys on this show are going to be becoming Hall of Famers coming up in September in Jackson, Tennessee, not very far from where you guys sit right now. And we are going to be there to see it. So, guys, if you haven't already, go online, check out MemphisWrestlingHallOfFame.com. September 21st, they're going to have a Hall of Fame induction ceremony. They're at the Picture Perfect Event Center. They're in Jackson, Tennessee. You can just go there and scan that QR code to take you right where you need to go to buy tickets. Going to be a lot of folks there. But as far as people we mentioned on the show today, Sir Mo is going to be there getting inducted into the Memphis Hall of Fame. And I can only hope that the first thing he utters into that microphone when he steps on stage is, as I watch Richard run for the door, I'm sure, if that's what, if that actually happens. We're also going to see the tag team. We were just talking about how they're just getting started here. They're just getting their legs under them. They're starting to get over. PG-13, Wolfie D and JC Ice are going to be going in to the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame there in Jackson. And how appropriate. I mean, those guys deserve to be going in there. They're going to be getting inducted alongside the Rock and Roll Express, who were legends when they got to wrestle them. Wolfie was saying how wild that is to be getting inducted in the same night as the Rock and Roll Express, because, they were kind of starstruck wrestling the Rock and Roll Express back in, 95. And then here they are going in together. But perhaps the one we're most excited about here on the Retro Wrestling Review, the biggest induction as far as we're concerned, it should be the main event. It should be the last one. It's the one that we're going to pop for the most. Uncle Danny himself, Nightmare Danny Davis, going into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Josh, how cool was that, man?
Dude, it's surreal. And especially, you would never think that the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame would actually happen in Jackson, Tennessee, but just because of circumstances and luck, I guess, it's our hometown that the shit's going to be happening in.
And
I
Danny's.
cannot. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, Danny. He's lived away from here so long. It's not his hometown still, damn it. No, it's his hometown as well. And dude, it's surreal. I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be a fun night. Like you said, a lot of old guys going to be there. Handsome Jimmy's going to be there, like we were talking about before the show. I've never got to see him in person, never got to meet him. That's number one, son. That's my Hulk Hogan moment right there. It's going to be awesome. And I hope I'm not too much for old Handsome.
And I tell you what, I there was two things that sparked in my head whenever I saw that Danny Davis flyer. I was like, one, my grandmother would give him shit because that star doesn't look the greatest. They could have found a better star than that star.
Yeah, look at it. That looks like a kindergarten suit with his left hand. My God.
But no, the other thing is just swelling up with pride because, like I said, it's Josh's legit uncle, but I felt like, I was adopted into that family a bit. And so it's like our uncle's going he's going into the Hall of Fame. And it's awesome, man.
I mean, I was already planning on going regardless, and was already talking to you guys about going, and so it was already in the works. But then I remember I sent you guys a text in our little group text. I was like, "Oh shit! They just announced today that Danny Davis is going in the freaking Hall of Fame. Like, you guys are definitely coming." I'm like, "We have got to get a group picture with Uncle Danny. I mean, it has to happen." And it would really make me happy if Josh was wearing that, American Eagles jacket or something in the picture. If we didn't have to sit there like assholes all night, we'd all have stars drawn on our faces. But that'd be a long time from 3:00 when this thing kicks off till the Hall of Fame happens, like around 7:30 or whatever.
We'll go in the bathroom.
Mine would be melted off my face, I'm quite sure, within 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I wish I could find the picture. There is a picture somewhere in this house of me and my best friend when I was a kid, Brad Oakes. We dressed up as the Nightmares for Halloween one year. And so there's a picture of us with stars drawn on our faces. And my buddy Brad had a mustache drawn on. So you would know that he was Ken Wayne and you would know that I was Danny Davis.
Good choice.
And yes, it's a combination of I was a huge Danny Davis fan. And this DeLorean pulled up one day and this fat bald-headed bearded guy got out and he's like, "Gene, don't have the mustache. Trust me. All right, just don't." And then he hit 88 miles per hour and disappeared. And I didn't know what that meant for a long time. And eventually I found out, and I cherish that advice every day.
You're going to lose a lot of matches, but I tell you, it's a better thing for you in the end.
So we're very excited to be there, folks. We'll be talking about this a little more as time goes on. But yes, please, if you're anywhere in the vicinity, come out to the Picture Perfect Event Center and join us in seeing Uncle Danny, Nightmare Danny Davis, going into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And a lot of other great guys as well. I don't have time to run them all down. There's a lot going in, and probably over the course of the next few weeks, we'll mention some others, but I thought these were just notable because they were all on the show that we discussed right here today and the shows we've been discussing in recent times. And a ton of other, man, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee's going to be there, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich, Reggie B. Fine, just a who's who. A lot of the old Power Pro guys are going to be there. A lot of the kick-ass wrestling guys are going to be there. Terry Golden's going into the Memphis Hall of Fame. So it's going to be quite the night. I'm excited about it, man. And, we don't get to hang out. We get to hang out here on the StreamYard once a week, but we don't get to hang out in person very often at all. And so I'm excited about that too. So it's a lot happening that weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, man.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us once again for the Retro Wrestling Review. And we will see you back here next week for more USWA wrestling action. And who knows, we might even get a clean finish. But let's not hold our breath, okay? Hey, folks, before we get out of here, I'd just like to take a moment to tell you we appreciate you checking out the podcast. And if you would, do us a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now, wherever you're watching it. If you'll just take a moment to either subscribe, to rate, and review, let us know what you think. We hope you're liking it. But even if you're not, let us know what you would like to see changed, and we will take that in consideration as we move forward. So we really appreciate any feedback we can get. Also, we just want to say how proud we are to be a part of the WrestleCopia brand of wrestling podcast. Ray Russell brings you something for everyone over at WrestleCopia.com. Check out all the great wrestling podcasts available over there right now. And for all things related to the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com and you can find links to everything we have there, our Facebook, our Twitter/X, our TikTok, our Instagram, our merch store. That's right. We've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got phone cases, we've got all kinds of great stuff. And it's all right there at our store. And you can find a link to it at USWApodcast.com. There's a link to the YouTube channel we're associated with, the Retro Wrestling Archive. You can find all that there. And if you have questions for us, if you saw something on the show that you have a question about or a comment about, if you've got some info to answer a question we have, or you got a question you want us to read on the air, if you want to work out an ad swap, if you want to have any kind of communication with us, you can go and send an email to USWApodcast@outlook.com, and I will get back to you just as quickly as humanly possible. And if you're a fan of Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, and if you've heard it, I know you are, check out DougGilbertPodcast.com for all things related to Doug's podcast. You can find links to our Facebook page for the show, our Twitter. You can find links to Doug's social media, his Twitter, his Facebook. All that's available there, plus a link to the YouTube channel. And if you have a question for Doug you would like for me to ask him on the air, you can send that question to DougGilbertPodcast@outlook.com, and we will get it added, and it will get answered in a future episode just as quickly as we can work it in. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you here next week for more